we are facing a chaotic market. We face lots of panic. Of course, some people trust their money with. Wall Street has no clue what's happening, as we are used to. And that's why we are managing our own money and making the best of it. So let's start first with a quick look at the chaos that we are seeing. The NASDAQ down 4.8%. That is crazy. And Dave here, destroying so much of your wealth. Well, it's not destroying your wealth if you don't sell. I will get to this in a second. These are just paper gains and losses. We'll get to Tesla in a second. But first, the macro situation after Trump announced the tariffs. The NASDAQ is now down 4.8%. That is a lot. The Dow Jones down 3.5%. That is also a lot. And the S&P down 3.89%. Now that's following the European markets. We see the stocks 600 down 2.3%, the German DAX 2.38%. So across the board, there are some problems. And in Japan, for example, the Nikkei is also 2.77, which is not too bad. Asia is like a little weird because there's not too much going on here. I'm especially surprised by Shanghai, that was pretty tame, but you never know what the Shanghai stock market even does exactly. So all in all, there is a lot of panic, especially in the United States, a little bit also in Europe, which is funny that the US is the most panicked. Everyone else should be panicked. And I want to discuss in this video quickly why this is, what it means, and what it means for us. As we see, as Tesla shareholders, Tesla is actually doing pretty well. And some people say, Joe, are you crazy? How is this good? Well, it's not good today. But when you look at what happened yesterday, that thing after, so we started the day at 268, or we ended the day on Tuesday, 268, right? Put this in perspective. Today we are 266. We are $2 down from 68 to 266. What happened in these 48 hours? On this one day, on Wednesday, we got very bad deliveries from Tesla. Pretty disastrous, right? Below anyone's expectations. And then we got the total Trump tariff hammer yesterday. If I would have told you that on Tuesday, here's what's actually coming. You get the numbers. 336,000 deliveries below everyone's expectations. And then Trump will bring down the hammer with this tariff and the markets will crash and the NASDAQ is going to be down 4.8%. Would you have told me on Tuesday that Tesla will go from 268 to 266 given these two circumstances? No, you would have said, oh God, this thing goes to 230. So given that circumstance, I think Tesla is holding up shockingly well. And that tells us a lot. I went into Tesla yesterday. Today, we are focusing on the markets and what's going on. Now, as you probably know, Trump announced these reciprocal tariffs, and they are not really reciprocal. He came up with this crazy table that some people now deciphered what it actually means when Trump speaks about the tariffs the other countries impose on the US. What he actually displayed there was the percentage of trade deficits with other countries. People figured it out at this point. So what Trump says, as long as you have a trade deficit or we have a trade deficit with your country, you will get hammered and we will put roughly half of your trade deficit as tariffs on your country. That has sent shockwaves through the world. I think, besides going later into why this is very good for the United States and the economy, and long-term even the stock market, I will also go into now very quickly my comment on it, why I think everyone overlooks the very basics of deal making and how we can actually predict what awaits us in the very close future. So here is my comment. Some people say this is a negotiation. Oh, this is actually the wrong post. Sorry, I have to find my post. I made this little post where I basically went through the art of the deal and explained what's actually happening. It was such a good post. Let me just find it. Too many posts today. So I was going into the art of the deal. Here, we got it. I don't know if anyone has ever read any book on negotiation, including the art of the deal. Here's my quick summary, right? How do you make a deal? Step 1, the most important step that everyone normally forgets about a deal. Before you even start negotiating, you ensure or create a fact pattern that ensures you will win. When you go into a war, you have to make sure you already won that war before you started. For example, have a giant trade deficit with the world and represent 30% of global consumption, like the United States. Because if you do that, all the talk from Germany and from the EU and France and all these people, they don't have a chance if you export a ton of goods to the United States and the United States exports very little to you. You cannot retaliate. There is no retaliation. Because if you lose all the trade to the United States, you're dead. If the United States loses all the trade to you, nothing happens. This is the Canada versus US asymmetry. And this is very important. And this is just only true for countries who have this big trade imbalance. For example, Brazil has, the United States has a trade surplus with Brazil. That is why Brazil does not appear in this whole thing, because Brazil says, I don't care. I don't care. The US is losing against me, just a tiny little bit, but Brazil doesn't care. Germany cares. China cares the most. Mexico and Canada care, and they cannot retaliate because they already lost at the beginning of this whole war, because they are dependent on the United States in trade, but not vice versa. So there's nothing to do. That is step 1. If you start negotiating, just make sure you already won. Step 2, you declare Liberation Day and tell most countries that they now will be subject to huge tariffs. Ideally, provide a big colored table. Troll them by saying they are reciprocal, but just use the trade deficit with each country as a tariff on the US. That triggers everyone. Trump says, oh, reciprocal tariffs, we will put the same tariffs on you that you put on us. But of course, that was stupid, because that's not how Trump did it. So now everyone is mad at him, but who cares? Step 3, let them all cry and whine like little babies. Have idiotic German economic minister Habeck, who is a really low IQ individual, as the president would say, and children's book author, say very dumb things like, oh, we are bonding together and we are going to retaliate and Trump will cave. That is what Habeck said, but the other Germans are not that dumb. So this is an exception. And the Chinese start playing very tough. That's step 3. They all freak out and say, oh, now we're doing bad things. Or they just bail. Step 4, use the global shock and awe to then negotiate with each of them lower tariffs that are still higher than they would ever have agreed with in the first place. So now everyone is shocked. The whole world is in disarray. Trump said, here is what's going to happen. They see it, they freak the hell out. Then they go, for example, von der Leyen, who you can think bad things of, and I think she's very problematic, but she's intelligent. She already indicated the EU wants to negotiate. Canada indicated strongly, the Ontario guy, we want to negotiate. Israel already dropped the tariffs. India reduced the tariffs. Lots of people. So now they're all coming to Trump and says, ooh, this is too tough. You're crazy. We have to do something. And then Trump has a list of stuff he wants and he gets some of it. And then step 5, with new core tariffs in place in a month or two that don't crash the other countries completely like these ones would probably, especially China. We enjoy millions of new American jobs with slightly increased tariffs, onshore supply chains. Now we can manufacture stuff inside the United States, and a booming economy because everyone builds manufacturing, while the whole world is thankful for your merciful procedure to bring down these initial tariffs. That's what I think is obviously going on here. Does that mean it's a negotiation tactic? No, it's not just a negotiation tactic. Of course, it's a negotiation tactic, but the goal is not to drop all these tariffs to 0 again. Trump believes strategically that he needs tariffs. He believes the US should be more protectionist, and he will implement that. But what we see right now is not the end game. What we see right now is the entry point for that negotiation. Doing it this way is very, very smart because it maximizes the United States leverage in this negotiation. By doing it to everyone at once, no one thinks it's just a trick. The Chinese think, oh my God, he just did this to the entire world. So it makes it much more absolute and puts them in a much better negotiation position. But I'm pretty sure that none of these tariffs will stay at the level they are right now. They will all come down. I mean, China is completely unsustainable, right? That would crash China. So that is my little take on this exact negotiation strategy. And besides that, we also have to understand on an economics basis that that we see that these tariffs are actually a good thing for America. I'm not going to go too deep into the economics, but this will be de-inflationary, not inflationary. It will create millions of new jobs because, I mean, just think about it. Take Nike and T-shirts. Imagine you have $19 T-shirts from Vietnam. Now these $19 T-shirts are $30, right? 50% more. Now this differential puts thousands of American jobs back into play because now someone who's in LA or who's in Ohio can say, I can manufacture T-shirts in the United States for $26 if I can sell them for $26, but at 22, I'm dead. Well, now they're 30 from Vietnam. And so now you're back in business. It's not rocket science. Same is true for a lot of short-term onshoring opportunities. And then there are longer terms like automotive and more complex goods. But most goods are not that complex, right? Now it becomes attractive again to build this stuff in America. So this is a good thing. Another aspect I want to go into before I give you also a secondary strategy perspective here, why this is genius. But before that, you can see that I'm right about these negotiation strategies by seeing the countries we already negotiate with, that they are not on the list. Mexico, Canada, because they are already negotiating. Russia, because you can be sure there is some economic negotiation going on too, because that is Trump's real strategy here. And Ukraine, of course, is not on the list. So these are countries where we have ongoing negotiations to actually establish new economic ties and peace. And that just shows you the whole thing is a negotiation thing. Before I go into a little bit more Tesla here, I want to give you one more strategic perspective. Besides the primary goal to onshore jobs and make America great again, we also have some secondary effects of these tariffs. Effects that are not even tariff related initially, that are very strategic objectives of the Commerce Secretary, of everyone involved in economics. I will go through it piece by piece and ask you what effects we see today with the tariffs on the key metrics you want to hit. Number one, oil. Oil. Why is oil important? Because the price of energy, as every German can attest to, because they are in the shitter because of it. Energy is a key inflation driver or inhibitor. If you have low energy costs, it looks very good. Let's look at oil. Is oil up or down today? Oh my God, it's down 7%. The oil price is down 7%. Okay, winning bigly. We win big on oil, right? Let me share the screen so you see what I'm pointing at. So oil is a big winner. Number one, oil, big winner. Number two, yields. What about yields? We know that we have to refinance $9 trillion this year. $9 trillion, if you bring it down 1 percentage point, you save $200 billion in hard costs. That's 20% of Elon's objective with Doge. $200 billion. You save that in interest if you bring it down 1%. How does it look like? Bonds. Let me see. Oh, look at that. The 10-year is down 16 freaking basis points. 16 points to 4.03%. That's nuts. And that started already yesterday. So, 10-year Treasury yield fall to lowest level since October after Trump. Some people say, oh, he's not going to crash the economy and everything just to get lower yields. Well, that's why I'm telling you, this is a multi-pronged strategy. He wants oil down, winning bigly. He wants yields down, winning very bigly. He wants the Fed to decrease, to bring down rates. Well, now, it's much more likely they bring down rates. And we also saw very bad job news because of Elon's work. We have like 220,000 additional job losses because of Doge on the DC area. 220,000 people who don't suck money out of the American taxpayers' pockets for nothing, or even things that are worse than nothing. So that is very good. Job market weakening, but in the right way. Not hardworking Americans losing their job, but the people who sucked us all dry and did terrible things. Then let's look at the next metric, FX. What about currency? What about the dollar? We want a weak dollar. Is the dollar getting weaker? Ooh, look at this. Euro is up to the dollar 2.1%, which is a lot if you know about currencies. That's a lot. The dollar to the yen is down 2.3%. Winning pound, winning Australian dollar, whatever it's called, winning Canada, winning. See, this is very stupid how they do it, because here it's euro to US, it must be green, this must be red because US to yen. So you have to look at, is the dollar getting weaker? Yes, to the euro weaker, to yen weaker, to pound weaker, to Australian dollar weaker, and to Canada also weaker. Win, 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 win. Why are we winning so much? And then we want to decrease tariffs, right? We want to have other people take down their tariffs. Well, Israel, Canada, India, already day one, many more to come, winning. Okay, you take these 5 pretty independent, very important metrics for health and winning. Oh, randomly, Trump is winning on this, on oil, he's winning on yields, he's winning on Fed, he's winning on dollar, and he's winning on tariffs. That's a little weird. Do you think that's a coincidence? Maybe it's a function of having the smartest economic administration that the US has ever seen when you look behind the scenes. So I think that's a lot of winning. Let's go to finally Tesla. And I already commented on this in the beginning. Look where Tesla is. Tesla is holding up beautifully. Let me refresh. Are we missing something? I tell you, Tesla, and I said this yesterday in the live stream, Tesla is in a very sweet spot. The price action of yesterday shows the market has had it with this whole oversold condition. They want to look forward to robotaxi. We are clear for earnings, and everything looks very good. You will see this thing going up. This is what I believe. I also believe on the market side, this is a hiccup that will be corrected very quickly, because now we are actually in a situation where, why is there so much stuff? Where are my markets here? This is bad view. Let's take this view here. We are in a situation where this is oversold. I think it will trickle down now in people's minds, like, oh, maybe this is the worst in terms of tariffs that we will be seeing. And all of these tariffs are now coming down over the next months, because that's the whole point. And once the market understands that, you have more planning certainty. Once Wall Street understands, well, Trump is saying you will get these tariffs. Tariffs will happen. I want this. But these are not the tariffs you get. You get lower tariffs. This is good. We have ongoing bullish conditions from here on, because we will see a lowering of tariffs constantly. Why do I have that confidence? Well, I think it's also very important that all of us understand, even if you are an economist or know about this stuff, we have 1% of the insight that the Trump team has, obviously. They have a little more resources and a lot of brains on this. I trust Trump on this, and I will comment on this because I will go to the risks of this whole operation in a second. And there's one thing I don't completely trust this team on. I don't blindly trust people. I trust people in what I believe they are very good at. This Trump administration is the best and most qualified administration the United States has ever seen when it comes to global trade, to finance, and to markets. Just look at the caliber of people and the number of people who are top caliber in this administration. That is why I believe, I'm not fantasizing here, but it is very clear that they want to put America first. He said that repeatedly. They are all very savvy business people. They are good in deal making. They like markets, and they do not want to crash the stock market. They want to see strong economic data. That is their objective and incentive for the entire Trump team. And they're extremely competent. If you combine that, what are the odds these people are going to do something incredibly stupid and crash the world and lose all their money and all their friends' money? It's not very high. What are the odds that they're plotting something here, something I outlined, that will lead to enormous amounts of money for shareholders and stockholders in American shares. It's extremely high because we know that's what they want. You would have to assume that they're all incompetent, and I tell you, the people who are working on this are not incompetent. So, is there any risk? Yes. There is, of course, the risk that this, some of the trickle effects of this on capital expense and capital planning is unclear. If you keep the markets and if you keep businesses too long in a state of uncertainty, it will impact the economy because they will start not investing. I think that risk is not very high because if you have a month of lack of clarity, no one cares if after that cool stuff happens. The main risk, and I will conclude this little update with the main risk. I think this is the main risk because it's a possible outcome. And it is something where the Trump team doesn't have a lot of competence because it actually goes against the grain of their brains, how they're wired. They're wired for competition, for deal making, for money, for economics. War is a whole different thing. The danger here is that they want to be tough on China, that they're going to down negotiate the China tariffs, but they want strong tariffs on China to make it weak, right? And to take it out as a competitor of the United States, which they could. The problem is if you destabilize China, I had some interesting discussions about that. That could end very badly because destabilization, by the way, does not mean civil war and unrest in China. It means it's so destabilized that Xi has to do something, that he's losing grip on power, and that he decides he needs a war to consolidate that. Same as the European Union leaders want a war with Russia now because they feel their power is slipping out of their hands. Only that they don't matter because they're incompetent and they have no power. Xi is a different animal. If Xi thinks this is going bad, he can attack Taiwan prematurely. And he could, and he probably would, because he wants it anyway, if he sees his power structure gets dismantled because the Chinese economy gets too unstable. He could pull the trigger, and you can never really control that from the outside. And I think the Trump team has a little bit of a blind spot because they just want to make them weaker. They don't see what could happen if they become too weak. This is not a short-term problem of next week or the week after, but could happen. The destabilization, if things go wrong, could happen within 6 to 9 months, in my opinion, the earliest. The problem with that is that it would be bad. So a war with China or attack on Taiwan would indeed be devastating to China, of course, but also to the United States and the entire world. You would have a breakdown of chip supply, the entire high-tech industry, all the way to cars, but laptops, AI, everything would be completely in turmoil. It would be a true disaster. China would be in a horrendous spot with tight, embargoes on them. So this is really something we absolutely must avoid, in my opinion. So that's the worst case outcome, that they overdo it unintentionally, destabilize it, and can't control it after, because once the Chinese economy is off the rails, it's very hard to get it back, and then you don't know what's going to happen. So this is a tail risk with this whole operation. So we have to watch very closely if they can agree with China and stabilize this whole thing. That's my only concern here. Everything else, I'm bullish. I think this is a time to buy. Glad Tesla is stable and strong as expected. Let's see where it is. I mean, it's hanging out here. It's literally moved 0% from Tuesday close after all that mess, which is pretty amazing. So I think that's the situation. You guys had a lot of comments. Let's see what we have here. None said these tariffs will be easy. It is like exercise. You must exercise and reduce calorie intake to reduce fat. Exactly. It's, you can't like mess up the United States for 50 years and then fix it in one day. But the United States is a very dynamic and strong economy with a lot of great entrepreneurs. Potential, once you fix these things can happen quickly within a year. Unfortunately, Americans are used to instant gratification in everything, me being one of them. Well, we all get there, right? Who wants to see the portfolio down? That's why we have to think about it and say, well, a little delayed gratification, as long as Tesla goes to 1,000, is fine. buy now or wait 1 or 2 weeks. I mean, I had multiple videos this week. Waiting sounds always good because you think, oh, if I wait, nothing can happen. But if you look at the robustness of Tesla, right, look at where this thing is and look where the markets are. It just 222, I was pretty sure it was the bottom. At 250, I was even more sure. And I think if this stuff doesn't bring down Tesla, I mean, what brings down Tesla? Because you see robotaxi approaching very soon. You have April 28th or 9th for earnings. And we know what can go wrong in earnings now that we know how bad it is. Like, okay, there would be not much surprises. They will look at robotaxi. And, it depends on your dry powder situation. I'm right now maxed out all in, even with leaps. More than I actually wanted because I had to switch down there at 222 and 230 because it was too good. Switch to some leaps. I want to get out of the leaps and back into shares once we see a little run up. But if you have any dry powder, in my opinion, waiting is not the smartest strategy, because if this doesn't drop Tesla, what do you think Tesla wants to do? It wants to go through to the moon, in my opinion. Once any opportunity presents itself. Imagine there's success now in these tariffs and the market goes up 5%. What do you think Tesla does? So I don't think it's smart to miss out on that. I normally have a stacked strategy. We have shares, full on shares, 100%. And then if things go against me, I can leverage up with options to some extent. That's why I'm in leaps. So if you go all in now and then the stock drops for whatever reason, depending on the situation, but we are still equally bullish, you can shift to midterm options or something. So it depends on your risk appetite. Here, as an American, I continue to be in shock at how stupid my fellow citizens are. If we don't become financially responsible, we are merely dead men walking. I mean, that is true. But, I tell you one thing, LJ, compared to the other people, that's the funny thing. If you're in America, you look around, it's like, is everyone stupid? What are people doing? They don't get it. No one knows anything about stocks. People are dumb with their money. Why is everyone a dummy? They don't know what democracy is. They believe fake news. But then you go to other countries, Europe, and, I don't know, like whatever, 30% of Americans or 40 or 50% have stocks. And you say it's outrageous. 50% don't have stocks. You go to Germany, it's like 15% of people have stocks. Literally 85% don't have stocks. And fake news. Oh, guess what? They don't even know what that means. In America, at least everyone has an opinion on it. So, America has many problems, but most of these problems are bigger everywhere else. That's how I see it. Okay, guys, that was the update for today. We have a little live session here, and I hope everything works out the way I see it, but I think it will. And I will update you because these are interesting times. Stay put and see you very soon. Thank you.